So, einen wunderschönen guten Morgen in Saal Adams. Jetzt kommt
Welcome and good morning to Saal Adams. This is going to be the year in review by the CCC 2018.
rechts auf der Bühne neben
On my right is Constanze Kurz, Linus Neumann, Frank, Erdgeist and Nexus.
There is no Jahresrückblick like CCC Jahresrückblick 2018. Ein großer Applaus.
And a big round of applause.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zum Jahresrückblick des Chaos Computer
So
Clubs.
hello and welcome to the yearly review of the Chaos Computer Club.
Den 35C3 als Version 1.0 dieses Kongresses begreifen, nachdem wir letztes Jahr eine ziemlich erfolgreiche Beta abgeliefert
So
haben.
this is version 1.0 of the Congress after we have delivered a better version last year here in Leipzig.
Ein Saal mehr in einer
We have one
Art und Weise,
room
die
more for
gedrückt hat,
the visitors.
wenn man noch die Bilder von vor ein paar Wochen angeguckt hat, wie diese Hallen aussahen.
When we had a look at the pictures about 1 week ago.
Jetzt plötzlich von Leben befüllt mit 17.000 Hackern.
So it's very interesting to see that now with 17,000 visitors, it's a great feeling.
So voll ist, dass ihr alle da
And we're very happy that you're all here and that's so full.
Und,
So welcome again.
Linus, sag doch mal was zu dem Video, das wir gerade gesehen haben.
Yeah, Linus, tell something about the video we saw just a minute ago.
Das sind Murmeln, die rollen, weil wir ja hier die Rollertage fahren.
Oh, that's small balls that were rolling because we are now having the roller blade days here.
Gemacht von Friedrich und seinem Team.
This was a present by Fredrik and his team, so thanks a lot to them.
Also wer jetzt noch nicht zum 35. Mal hier ist, was
So who's not here for the 35th time? What do we do here in this review of the year?
im Chaos Computer Club, die wichtig waren oder die wir
So we are talking about the subjects that were important to the Chaos Computer Club, statements we did, comments to the press that we published, regional work that we did.
mit jedem Jahr gewachsen ist.
So we had saw this Congress growing with each year. So we are happy about this growth.
Das Meiern, aber keine Sorge, nicht allzu lang. Und wir werden natürlich auch
We're not going to talk too much in detail about the small things of the clock, but we are also going to focus on the political issues of
Wesentlichen
the digital.
wir uns aber natürlich dabei auf die Gesellschaft an sich ein bisschen bewegt hat und nicht
So we are focusing on the subjects which are important for society and not each small little thing of the net politics.
Ministerien und Landesministerien angekommen.
So right now we think that these subjects already have arrived to the Landes and to the nation politics of Germany. So we start with the structure. So as you can see, the Chaos Computer Club is growing. This year we had another growth. So as you have to be a little careful about this figure, because in 2014 this was a special year. We grew much faster in this year. But as you can see, still, during the last years, still there's a continual growth. So we think that there are many people out there who think this is an important idea which we have to back up, and therefore thanks a lot to all those people who have decided to support us. So we have to explain, this is Frank talking, we have to explain that this club is only being supported by the members. We are not collecting any money from other companies or governmental sources, and we are very happy about this independence. So we don't have to care for the ideas or the necessities, the requests of the sponsors.
Also das ist natürlich auch etwas, was wieder auf den Kongress zurückschlägt. Also das ist genauso.
This is also something which comes back to the Congress here, because this Congress is being done and supported by all those supporters. And it allows us to give access nearly to everybody here to the Congress. And we also try to have the club working in this way, so to be independent from authorities and not to be limited by authorities. So big thanks to all the people who are making this Congress possible and who are making possible this club to exist.
Das Office liefert uns immer ganz schöne Statistiken.
The office is delivering nice figures. So in this case, a reminder from the CCC office. Some of your PGP keys need to be renewed. Sometimes they are missing. So please remind yourself of doing the yearly PGP control. Most of the people in Germany don't have a PGP key, but okay, there are enough people to make the statistics. So maybe we should also have a look at the email. No, in this context, the key is automatically generated. So members by
Wir können das auch bunt. Diese Folie muss man leider trotzdem ein bisschen erklären, je heller die Farbe ist.
So this is showing people where people come from. So the brighter the color, the more people are coming from those places. And where it's dark, there we have to still work. And where it's yellow, then we can save our forces.
Relativ breit über Deutschland verteilen. Natürlich ergibt sich auch bei uns so, dass man so diese Ballungsräume, wo mehr Menschen...
So of course it's clear that where there are big places, big cities, there is more of Chaos Computer Club than in the rural areas.
Sich mit den Themen und den Zielsetzungen des Chaos Computer Clubs auseinanderzusetzen.
So, and of course there are more people in the cities who are looking forward to to participating in the subjects.
And of course we also have members worldwide. Those from Germany are not included here. We have a large block from members from Switzerland, from Austria, and also from outside of the European Union, from USA and, well, UK, soon to be out of the EU. Yeah, I almost forgot about that.
Wenn man so viele Mitglieder weltweit hat,
And if you have that many members worldwide, then of course there's going to be a lot of interest in these members. So there's going to be search warrants to be executed. We've had this twice this year. There's going to be a talk today by Koyo and Christine at 4 o'clock, 10 past 4 today. You have to go there.
die Begründung
The reason for these search warrants were so absurd that they really show you that search warrants can just happen.
es gab einen
There was a travel guide for chaos tourists aimed at political demonstrations in Augsburg, and that was used by law enforcement as a call to violence.
Reiseführer
And this travel guide had a RiseUp email address as a contract address, so law enforcement thought, oh, what idiots, they use their own domain, so who's this RiseUp? Oh, these people in the USA, they do hosting for political parties, but Zwiebelfreunde in Germany collect donations, so why not just go there and see if, and let's go to the heads of this this association, their families at home, they obviously have families. One person wasn't even there, so their family was searched. Why not? We really need to do something, so why not this? And Zwiebelfreunde was going to opposition about this. It was such a strange reason for the search warrant, and it was very quickly declared illegal, but it doesn't mean that the material isn't in the hands of law enforcement for several weeks, including lists of people who donated. So it's very important to care about your OPSEC, what kind of data you want to keep, how you keep them or don't keep them. So very important, I think, is... So they never assumed that they were actual perpetrators. They assumed they were just people who could provide information. And there was a change since last year. So witnesses have to answer questions. People who are potential perpetrators do not have this, but as a witness you cannot encumber yourself, and that is very dangerous. So if you are a witness in the future to a search warrant, if you are targeted with a search warrant as a witness, then maybe you should probably say, hey, I could hurt myself, so I cannot say anything, because maybe this is just a smarter way to deal with that. The Chaos-Treff in Dortmund also was visited, the whole house actually. They are living in a building together with something called the Wissenschaftsladen, science shop. They housed several initiatives and have hosting infrastructure for several initiatives. And also they had something that the French police didn't like, which led to the whole building being searched, searching for this server. They were working on a door in the cellar for quite some time and entered all other rooms. So they had to fight about whether the Chaos-Treff Dortmund was searched, or if the law enforcement was just there, told them they are not allowed to use a telephone, but it wasn't really a search warrant. It wasn't really a search. They're just looking around. And also police was very friendly. They told them, you must put your phones on this table and can't touch this, which is even illegal with a search warrant. But the police didn't detain them. They could have left at any time and just have left the space for the police there. So that was a very grateful offer.
Auch da sehen wir unsere territoriale Integrität.
So we see the territorial integrity of our hackerspaces are threatened here. And we would really like this to stop, but we also would like everyone to be prepared. So to finish this up, there's two tips for you. First, the CERT says that this object, which is a 3D printed model of an atomic bomb, CERT says this is not a butt plug. And another information for you that was necessary, which Datenschleuder gave. So during search warrant, there's a gimmick, there's a sticker in the current issue of Datenschleuder, which tells you how to behave when there's when you're being visited. You also shouldn't write it too small, because and also the numbers that from lawyers that you may want to call, even if you're just witness to a search warrant, when you're this is generally early in the morning, so phone numbers and having a list of things you may want to remember, that doesn't hurt. And how to so remember how if you don't have the Datenschleuder, but most of them have them already in their post boxes. So we have a group of people who care about this Datenschleuder again. So we can be quite certain. We can be quite certain that this group of people is going to continue their work on Datenschleuder. They also have a lot of technical means, which they looked very intensely at during the last year to create this Datenschleuder. So a lot of people who were waiting for this were very happy to have a piece of paper, a magazine again. And there will be a digital version on ds.ccc.de. And thanks again for creating this magazine. And we're going to finish up this member part and go to the content part. But there's a small thing we need to tell you. If you do not have this, it may be because you aren't a member of the CCC. The office is having a table where you can sign up, and if you become a member, you get this for free. And we are happy to be able to provide this after a longer break now. And on Congress, you can pay without leaving any electronic traces here on Congress. So you can very secretly, very clandestine, you can become a member of the CCC. And the Datenschleuder you can also get right here at the office desk. And there's also some older volumes available. So let's go to the content part. There's some connections there. It's not only people from Berlin. We also have people from the local groups, ERFA, Erfahrungsaustauschkreis. So you have seen the map, so we have a lot of them. The people from Hessen came together, from Hesse, German state of Hesse, about the Trojan used by the government. It's not about the government Trojan that didn't only want to give that to the law enforcement, but also to intelligence services. And that led to widespread protest, not only by civil rights groups, but also by people who were asked to give their professional opinion. This is a logo from FIF, which also was invited to give their professional opinion. So there's a lot of aspects in this law, not only the government Trojan, but a lot of groups came together and collected some factual information about that. We talked about it, the Police Duties Act, we had a talk about that yesterday. We also gave a written testimony about this together with people from Hesse. And we have some success there, which was quite surprising for me. I was there. There was a demonstration in February, and it didn't look like they would change anything. But the government Trojan isn't going to be allowed for secret services, but only for law enforcement, but not the secret service. And the problem is, of course, very different because it's hard to control intelligence agencies.
There are many more political duty acts. We don't want to go into the details here. They all have types of Trojans inside them. Therefore, I think it's a form of opening up of the enforcement agencies. But on the other hand, we saw more protests than before.
Protestdemo auf die Beine gestellt, die, glaube ich, auch bundesweit ausgestrahlt hat. Wir sehen hier ein Beispiel zum Beispiel aus Hannover.
So this was, in the picture you see the demonstration in Hanover, and many more other groups have been founded after this one. So there was also a talk yesterday, if you want to get more details.
Erfas und Chaos-Treffs sich eingebracht haben und sich bei den Protesten mit engagiert haben.
Okay, of course, the Chaos Computer Club also was in those bigger assemblies and brought in their experience.
Ja, also im Vortrag gestern ist ja schon vieles angesprochen worden. Und
the talk yesterday already mentioned several things. I was also participating in the action in Hanover, in Hesse.
die wir seit langem dort hatten.
And this was one of the biggest demonstrations that we had for a long time.
Was dort eigentlich für Gruppierungen gleichzeitig angepackt haben.
And you thought, keep in mind how many different groups were participating.
In Niedersachsen dazu bewegen können.
So even the football groups have been engaged against this Police Duties Act.
Hannoveraner Bahnhofsbereich unterwegs gewesen ist zu einem Zeitpunkt, wo so ein
who has already been near the station in Hanover when there was a football game. He knows that it's not easy to move in this area when there are the controls. The police stated that there were around about 8,300 members. The organizers said it was 15,000. So that's nearly twice as much. And I had the chance to have a view on it from up above. We were on a higher floor. And the people who were looking outside, they said, okay, that's around about 5,000, but this was about half an hour before this started.
euch nicht sagen, weil
And questions that we asked later, what was the number and how was the number calculated, was not communicated to us, so they didn't want to state this.
gesagt hat, naja, das waren ja nur 8.000 Leute, 8.300 Leute.
So when stating it was only 8,300 people, and on the other hand, we say it's around about 15,000. So it's an interesting constellation because actually it does not mind. There were people on the pavement who were applauding. There were people on the windows who were hanging out banners, although they did not participate. So it was one of the biggest demonstrations we had for a long time. So this shows the main difference. And this debate, also if you look at the other regions in Germany, so I've got the impression that the people who are organizing those laws, they have the impression that people don't understand. We are only doing those laws to fight terrorism.
Sperrt man einfach mal so ein, weil sie Gefährder sind.
So, and people on the other hand who are dangerous, what they are put into prison, but what are we going to do with the people who are
Und ab wann geht man damit um?
real terrorists?
Wo das denn so anfängt?
So, and it's not clear what's the difference between a dangerous person and a real terrorist. It's not clear.
Kritisch eingreift, wenn wir jetzt an Castor-Transporte denken.
So, is it, for example, a person who is interfering with the railway transport of a Castor transport? Is it a terrorist? And this problem of not existing limits between dangerous person and terrorist, it's a problem in all the regions of Germany, and that's why it's important that you think about it and focus on it. So we also put up some requests. We will continue to have this debate in 2019. It's of course not only on Trojans, it's also on biometric, it's on DNA analysis. So it's on preventive actions of the police. That's discussing points. Who wants to get more information about this can get this. So we are very happy about anybody who is going to engage in 2019. Also is this. No, we have a look back a year before. We had a problem with this telecom router. So we had. We tried to be involved in the process in the telecom router because it was quite unstable quality. After this, we had a process on the governmental level with the BSI and ministries. And this is what TR stands for. It's a technical regulation for routers. So we had several requests together also with the Freifunker and with open WRT people. So there were different meetings, different comments that we handed in, and now a first round has been finished. For the people who were engaged in this, it was a little frustrating because this first round, the lobbyists of the cable providers actually won it with worst means inside the meetings. So in the end, there's actually a very tumble regulation, which is more or less regulation on CAN. So our goal actually was that there was a possibility for suppliers to differentiate on security updates, which should be mandatory, and also in which frequency those updates are sent out. And we also wanted to bring through or put through in politics that this was mandatory. So now that's CAN rules. So it was quite lots of work for us afterwards, and the BSI, the German Authority for Infrastructure Security, they were not happy. So we think it's going to be in a second round, and we are looking forward to what will be the result from this second round. So I'm really disappointed from this process. 2 years after this failure of the router, this regulation is coming out. And actually in this regulation, there is nothing which would harm the suppliers. So what that was... So actually, the suppliers put out the stuff that they had out 2 years before. This what we already have. This we changed already. So for the people who were on site, it was very frustrating that they were discussing far off the topic. So all alternative firmware, I think this is a very important request. So actually to have a free firmware, this is the only possibility to have old gadgets still running.
Firmware drauf, die alles aus dem Gerät holt, was es kann, dass es alle neuen Standards unterstützt, was diese Hardware irgendwie machen kann. Diese Geräte haben die Hersteller längst abgeschrieben.
So those old gadgets, there is no new firmware which fills in all the security lacks. It's something which is not supported anymore by suppliers. And of course, they are not being run anymore by suppliers. And these are subject for attacks. I think we had a special moment where about 100,000 gadgets were concerned. And afterwards we had quite critical reporting on this. On the other side, we had the press reports by the different supplier associations. So I hope that, although this momentum is lost now, but I still hope that this will be another momentum which will force suppliers to act in this area.
Die wichtigste Erkenntnis für uns daraus war halt.
Nein, das war ein Scherz. Vielleicht kurz diese TR noch ganz. Ich muss das kurz
So this was a joke. This TR would like to put this in. These discussions work like this. All that are sitting at the table, they have the idea to have a distinguishing element, especially concerning foreign suppliers. So this feature, this is also something which could be implemented by the Chinese supplier. So is this not sufficient? So they would like to put something on the package which is impressing, and therefore they can have higher prices. But it's yeah, the goal is to have it as a process and to put a date on. This is valid till a special date. So now it's become, you can only put it on the website and with any other further obligations.
For us, the main thing we noticed was that the BSI didn't really work well in this case. We were really wondering, what is the BSI doing anyway? Where are they? There are a lot of lobbyists, and even though the people were sometimes clearly telling the false statements, nobody was correcting them. So if they want to create standards for technical security in the digital space, they have to be more active. They have to be able to enforce these regulations and not just moderate a discussion between lobbyists. I think we said that it's important that there is the BSI, which is a civil body, but in the way they are organized right now and the way they are acting, that's not helping. However, let's go to brighter news. If the BSI doesn't do anything, then the community has to be the one who does the work. So in this case, I'm talking about Freifunk, who are very close to us, both in terms of technical exchange as well as tools for digital, for example, with refugee camps and in schools with the Chaos macht Schule project. Freifunk also is very active. They also have a very large assembly here at the 35C3, and they had a problem during the year that in some parts of Germany they were accepted as tax exempt, but in Schleswig-Holstein, they did had some support, but it wasn't successful to get them declared tax exempt. In November, I think, maybe it was October, by CDU, the Green Party, and FDP, they were accepted to be tax exempt. The SPD had another idea which didn't really make a lot of difference. And CCC was asked, hey, what do you think about giving them tax-exempt status? And it wasn't very hard for us. We were ready to write a larger, short statement where we were very warmly supporting them. The for free work they are doing for tens of years now, it should really be have more acceptance, and we were very happy that that was accepted in the end, and they are now able in most parts of Germany to cooperate without barriers. And we're very happy that our work here paid off. We're not quite as happy. There was a kind of a project at a station, larger station, a rather new station in Berlin, Südkreuz. There was a pilot project, pilot phase. They were testing 3 commercial companies for face recognition, and it was a project by former Minister de Maizière, who went there twice himself, which increased press coverage, but his successor didn't really talk about that at all, except for a small statement after it was done, which it was only at the end of this year. And he said he didn't really push this as his prestige project, but at least they were giving a statement after it was closed. And the final statement from the federal police, they were essentially, so we told them that it was a really unscientific, really not truthful. Sorry, I'm getting enraged again. They are not even trying to. We have a working group within the CCC, and they're not even giving us the numbers so we are able to see what happened. They had at least, yeah, they got like the negative price by larger statistical organizations here in Germany for this. It's not scientific at all. It's not able to look at, and then they combined all the three manufacturers to get recognition rates that aren't super terrible. And within the door, they only had recognition rates around 10. It's all just 10 to 12%. It's all just very terrible. The whole project is being continued slightly differently without biometrics, but with anomaly detection. So they want to see fast movements when someone falls down, for example. So they're now going to hire actors. So the computer knows what these kinds of scenes look like. And we are really hoping that these kinds of actors, so we are gladly volunteering to become these actors. There's a lot of things to be said about that, but in the year-end review, we don't have that much time. There's another project, for example, in Mannheim with 76 cameras that also want to look at biometric data. And that's, of course, it's not really video surveillance, it's biometric surveillance. And people are confusing these. But it seems that the German Minister of Interior doesn't really seem to show any interest, or very, very little interest. And we're going to continue watching this in the second phase when there's no biometric measurements anymore. We've had a lot of fun there. We were going down the escalators with masks on. But we shouldn't accept the normalization of biometric data collection, neither at Südkreuz nor anywhere else. And in Hamburg, there was very encouraging results where the person concerned with privacy was very much working towards getting this database deleted. So we don't want to have, from the children to the very old person, 500 million people indexed, and we're going to continue this fight in 2019.
Also, man sollte dazu noch mal kurz.
Jemand was sagen zu Südkreuz? Okay.
Does anyone want to add something? I want to say something very fundamental. This face recognition, the fact that it didn't work, the fact that they are lying about how it kind of worked, shouldn't confuse us about the real problem. The fact that this technology doesn't work in the beginning doesn't mean that it's not going to be introduced on a greater scale. And the problem is that these networks of surveillance cameras are being connected to computers. If you look at what's happening in Asia, networks of thousands of cameras are being connected using fiber to the cloud. Oh yeah, maybe that's a way to finally get fiber at the railway stations.
Also wir sollten uns auch nicht davon abhalten lassen, dass irgendwie wir Deutschland als
Yeah, we shouldn't kid ourselves. We may not have the great internet connection, but these surveillance systems that are under development right now, they are not depending on face recognition. They are going to be combined with data from smartphones. Data like how are you walking? So many cameras are analyzing the style in which you walk. So we shouldn't be concentrated too much about facial recognition, but the connected detection of many people and their behavior, and that's what this is about. Last year we were talking about the German identity card law, EID law.
The
EID law, which creates a central biometric database, which already exists. So we are talking about facial recognition in stations, while there already exists a biometric database. And after 10 years, it's going to be complete because everyone has to get a new ID card within this time frame. And the surveillance, which is everywhere, well, the minister didn't repeat it, but the commercial biometric surveillance also has made great strides. And especially great projects like in New Orleans by Palantir, which I believe are more advanced than these manufacturers we've seen in Südkreuz. And we can now continue to the next great debacle. CITES is a project from 2018. They are attached to the University of the Bundeswehr in Berlin. We see the entry here. André Meister has gone there and taken the photograph for us. And we remember that CITES is being led by someone from the BND Secret Service, or who used to work for BND. And they are trying to get hackers to work for them. We are not very happy. We're not very unhappy that people don't really want to work there, or who need employment there urgently. It's great to see that they get management people, but not as fast as they wanted. But they don't find someone to manage, which management seems to work, but not what they want to manage. So the debate about that wasn't very surprising, but just the beginning of it. We were talking about hackback in the political space, which is about countering active attacks by disabling the infrastructure that's used for it. And there was a very interesting statement by the scientific service of the German parliament, which showed many legal problems. And that's not only a problem for, it's not only supposed to be used by German government agencies, but also by the army, the Bundeswehr. And there's the ADAC, Agency for Disruptive Innovations in Cybersecurity. I'm not making this up. And von der Leyen and Horst Seehofer presented this. And for some reason, they left out a D afterwards. So the disruptive wasn't even too weird for them. So it's just AIC. We don't know where the D was left. Unfortunately, we didn't get much information when the two were speaking. Von der Leyen basically said it was like DARPA. So it's basically, it's providing, I mean, it's very important for humanity. It does have some military background, but it brought us the internet. Yeah, she didn't mention the drones, the Predator drones. And we need to look at this from the background that since 2 or 3 years in Germany, there's a fight going on about how cybersecurity architecture, like they say, how this is supposed to look like, which agency should actually be concerned with what. And the disruptive agency here Yeah, I just really love this word. It's one piece of the puzzle. And it's about trying to create a central point that supplies these kind of tools. And they were trying to not talk about attack, but more about defense. But everyone who's concerned with this in this process, in the political process, they are saying that they're trying to forge attack tools there. And I just want to interject here. I want to make a warning about hacking back. What they're telling us, we're almost making the same points here, but the idea is that attack is happening right now. It's going forward into our systems, and it needs to be stopped to prevent larger damage. But the attacks we see that it is in progress and you can stop it while it's in progress. That's not how it works. So they always use denial of service attacks here, because in a data breach, the data has been breached. So what else is going to happen? So it's very hard to define a scenario where a hackback is even potentially helpful. So I'm now imagining the ADIC or CITES or whatever. They are sitting with their coffee in the morning, and then the general comes in and says, hackback, this email address, this IP address. And then they fetch their keyboards and hack. That's not how it works. Yeah, but that's how they imagine it. And I don't think they are so stupid. I think they try to they try to get the authorization to hack. And then they can always say, well, if we hadn't hacked them, then it would have been even worse. So it's according to the law. But we won't get a law that defines clearly what a hackback is and what is not. At the end of this debate, they won't have offensive cyber capabilities. Because if they want to use them, then they have to infiltrate systems earlier, and so they are able to turn it off later when it attacks. And that's where we don't want to go, and I think we were very clear about this.
So I would like to point out what the research agencies of the Parliament have discovered and published. So the statement is clear. We have a defense army, but also other authorities have stated that it's not a possibility to change this situation. We have a defense army, and this cannot be changed. It would be illegal. Currently, that's our right, and even if it fits them or not, this is where we have to stand for. Therefore, we had to put something in written. This current debate actually is to define the position. Where is the Federal Republic of Germany to be located? Shall the offensive possibility be limited, or in the as in the secrecy agency? Yeah, in BND, in the security agency, we are not sure how much offensive possibilities there are. What actually Germany wants was that would they like to play with the other big players? But it seems that Germany would like to do this. And this positioning to state we don't want to have this. We want a defensive strategy. We laid this down to point this out and to make clear there are also other ways. There are some think tanks between authorities and the German military to define under what rules we are allowed to do offensive operations. But as you can come up with practical examples, the last attack to infrastructure of the German authorities when the Russians came in, what actually did you want to hack back? What do you want to do? Do you want to hack Gmail because you have a Trojan? So it's rather difficult technically, but also politically. So the real examples, they actually do not like. So they always say, okay, this is secret. We have some more examples, but we are not allowed to tell you. So we say, okay, we are in a really good position. We would like to have a defensive strategy, and we should have defensive measures. And we made concrete suggestions. For example, characterizing gadgets which are interconnected, incentive programs, educational programs to know how to program in a secure way, but also insurance, as if you have secure, or if you state you have secure gadgets, then you should also be liable for this in case this is attacked. And of course there's the aspect of international contracts. Of course, internationally it's really difficult to control those operations. It's maybe possible to count the Trojans, but in other situations also the states, the nations are trying to stick to those contracts. So unfortunately in the cybersecurity area it's a little difficult to have international contracts. In the United States and Great Britain are currently not very willing to have this. So the idea is to have defensive agreements and not set up offensive possibilities. Yeah, we also want to have and to show clearly clear position what concerns the think tanks that are giving information to the government. So as a European country, we need to request those things also internationally and on the academic side. Yeah. So also internationally, lawyers, they come up and they try to figure out what possibilities there would be. So we wanted to make a statement where we hope to find also people who are joining in to enhance this defensive strategy. So this is now concerning international requests on responsible encryption. This means it's also the request to have no backdoors in software. On the other hand, yeah, there is the request from agencies to have backdoors to get inside the software. And that actually this is a continuation of crypto wars. Especially this has been forced from the side of the Five Eyes. So in Australia they have just won. So the law in Australia has already put in force. So they offer, in Australia there's a service which is offered with encryption, but there's an implemented backdoor. So it will be very interesting how the big technology suppliers will stick to this. Clear is that this strategy, which is could also be foreseen. So encrypting is okay. What about decryption? So the background is that the big security agencies, yes, the encryption is being done without the users knowing this. So it's implemented in WhatsApp, for example. You even don't recognize it. So they have ubiquitous encryption. So, and this really makes work of secrecy agencies more difficult. So this is actually quite good. Otherwise, they would not react in this way. So they will try to implement backdoors, not only here in the Five Eyes sectors, but also here in Europe. So we have to be alert. So they always argue, okay, those bad terrorists, so that's why the government needs to be able to look into what is happening in the cyber communication. So be alert, there will be those discussions and talks where this is requested. So coming back to the Trojans discussion, so actually FBI has already been trapped. There was somebody who has, there was somebody in Parliament who has always questions again, and they were discovered manipulating the figures. So we want, the request was, we want to have figures. So, and that's the main point. What they want to have it for, those Trojans, it's actually cannot be proved by figures. So it's very important to have offensive requests to get hard facts and not rely on the felt. So something more, which it will be here with us for the next years. It's always quite difficult to talk in this area because this is the bigger crowd which is not addicted to Facebook. So although most of us do not have an account with Facebook, but of course you're also concerned. And this has been made clear by the Cambridge Analytica scandal. So the debate, actually, it has switched from a privacy discussion to the bigger question, how about being safe from manipulation. We know much more now, but we won't go into the details right now here. This I will do on day 4 with Ingo Dachwitz in an own talk. We will have a look back on the Facebook scandal and the micro-targeting debate. So it was a really disastrous year for this advertising company. So this subject will continue to be with us in the future.
So we need to be very clear about this. It's not about data being lost. It's about data being used. It's about having the power to manipulate, to accumulate as much data but from so many people, by so few people, leads to a situation that is very hard to control. And a very important point is it doesn't make sense to focus on the technical details. We are seeing right now that the election in Brazil They are using different technical methods. They were using WhatsApp groups and similar chat groups, but they were also based on profiling. They were also targeting people. What it's this about is political manipulation by accumulating data. So it's not just about Facebook. It's about all these data companies. And
Okay.
Ich dachte schon, die schießen auf uns.
I almost thought they were shooting at us. Are they this angry? Okay, no. One important point is to mention that these networks and systems that are collecting data and creating profiles of us are meant to manipulate us. Whether this is done through advertisements or political manipulation, we should keep that in mind. It doesn't matter which system it is. Creating profiles, creating personality profiles from us that are explaining how we are working in our insides, not just from the outside, but they know better than we know how we are working as a human being. They are made for exactly what this is being used for. There are companies where when you get internet, it includes Facebook, so you're using it every day. And once you want to look at the rest of the internet, you have to pay for it. So if you look at both of these trends, they are not able to properly use their responsibility for political discourse. Especially Facebook has shown to be deficient in this case with Analytica. And they are using their position as a sole provider of information that they are curating themselves, partly automatic, partly they are actually curating it themselves. So if you look at Malaysia, for example, they don't have personnel there to react to the worst cases even. So there's no native speakers and that could react to hate speech in the Facebook network. And these two factors combined I'm really afraid of these. And it's creeping into our networks. There's by Vodafone, I think, Deutsche Telekom and Vodafone are doing zero rating offers. And you have to look at the fact that the internet is decentralized, which has been in decline during the last years. So more and more people are being confronted with the internet via Facebook. So when Facebook is down, they are recharging their phones because they think they don't have any money anymore. So this is when the companies win. Once these companies are big enough, they are unhappy with the fact that the rest of the internet even exists. And so it may happen that the rest of the internet vanishes for most of the people, be it because you have to pay more money or even have to pay any money at all to see anything outside of this corporate network. Vodafone has done this in Germany by adding passes. Telekom has a offer which is called Stream On. And it's always a problem for the bloggers, service providers that are not included. So us, for example, the C3 Video Operations Center, the VOC, we'd like to extend our thanks to them for their work. All of the CCC events and some related events, they film them, they stream them, they put them on the internet. It's a lot of work over the course of the year, and they have a video-on-demand portal which provides a lot of great entertainment. There's these stickers, media, CCCDE, and chill. You can do that together with your friends thanks to the VOC. So the zero rating offers always targets the most data-hungry services. So they say, hey, we have to do bandwidth management. So you get Netflix, YouTube for free, maybe audio streaming, and then the only thing that's left is really just, well, porn. Oh, it's not included. Oh, I didn't know. Shit. Well, the only thing that's left is the rest of the internet, which costs money now. And they are saying, hey, isn't it great what you get for free? But the difference is, well, looking at from the other side is what you have to pay for now. And I can't see the case when you look at some times of the day, Netflix is 90% of the traffic of the internet. So the rest we can't provide for them because we don't have the bandwidth for that. We have a written report. We've written a written report to the used to be called RecTP, is now called Bundesnetzagentur, as the federal regulation agency for the networks in Germany. And there were very difficult law question regarding European law, which is very hard for us because we are a club of hackers. But we are providing a lot of content which is being discriminated against, and that's what we put out in this report. It's also available on CCC.de, like all our other reports. And I just want to make clear that we've fought long and hard for net neutrality in Europe, and we think zero rating is covered by that. And the Bundesnetzagentur said, well, under some circumstances, it may be possible for a provider to do that kind of offers. So first of all, they have to do it everywhere where they are acting, so also in the EU roaming. And they said, well, we can't afford that. So it's the law is against our business practice, so we just ignore it. And last update was that there were some punishments issued. So Deutsche Telekom said, no, we're not going to pay for that. We're going to file a lawsuit against this. So that's very, very cheeky from them. So when non-technical people talking about net neutrality, I was confronted with a lot of negative energy. Customers that pay for StreamOn or the Vodafone Pass, they see how this is beneficial for them. So they get it because they want some special stream and they don't want this to be taken away. So it's a very hard discussion to have. We need to explain to them what the problem is. And it was very hard for me to talk to people who bought this, who thought they could save using these offers. And it was very hard. And I think this is a call to action to all of you. I think it's very interesting that I'm paying for something, so I'm saving money, which I think it's very interesting to do that. You pay for something additionally. It's like when there's an offer for children's diapers and you buy them because they're cheap. And if you buy 2 of them, you've saved twice. The other side of the issue is, well, we could go to Vodafone as the CCC and say, hey, we have this streaming portal with this great content. How do these contracts look? If somebody has a copy of one of these contracts, we would really love to read it. But maybe they are individual with each content provider. Is that all we have to say about net neutrality? Okay, so let's continue with something less happy. So data retention is a law in Germany, but it is currently not enforced because there's lawsuits against them. So we have a very complex situation. So it is law in Germany, but it's not enforced. And the question about this conflict is going to haunt us next year as well. The government, of course, wants data retention. The courts are disagreeing, but this is going to continue not only in Germany, but also in the European Union. And there's one of the problems is that the European Court of Law has issued a lawsuit that is widely ignored. They are saying essentially you cannot store telecommunication data without cause. It's not according to European law, and they are trying to get around it. But we have a second layer here that we want to talk about it. It's partly a good thing, partly a bad thing. There's, in addition to the European Court of Law, there's also the European human rights law. There were some verdicts that are also concerning contents of communication. 10 NGOs from UK mostly, and me as a private citizen, we've won this case, but not in all the details. So it was against the British government and GCHQ and the acts that allow them to collect this data and filter and select on it, including the restrictions they face. And some of that is against Human Rights Convention, which is a great success. But the same year in Sweden, it was also about mass surveillance, but it was from a different part of the court, and they were saying essentially the opposite, which said, well, that is still acceptable under human rights. And in both cases, there were people were complaining about it, and they have, I think they have a great chance to win it, because the second verdict was issued afterwards. But also in our case, someone was attacking the verdict. So even in the GCHQ court case, where they accept the part of the surveillance, we were responding to this. So there's going to be another hearing, and we hope that the mass surveillance is going to be made impossible.
But still, we have to say, in Great Britain, it still continues. Maybe also a call for action to all. This is a development which actually frustrates me a little bit. We have to stick to that the results of these courts actually also arrive in politics, and not politicians going to Karlsruhe and then influencing the laws. So they shouldn't ignore the results of those laws as the German government actually did it. Oh yeah. Since 1 year, there's a very cool webmailer, encrypting webmailer in offer. So if you have used a governmental exam, then you have to use it. So we had a closer look about what lawyers thought of So it is a system, or should be a system, where courts and lawyers should communicate amongst each other with signature. It's a piece of Java. You have to install it. In version 1 it comes with a secret key to be installed. So they drew it back, they reworked it. The backend now seems better, but Java on some operating systems still is not optimal. I have a friend, I have the pleasure to keep this system up to date. So what do they do? They have pop-ups when you want to have a new message to be sent up. Probably they have developed it for a browser or in a certain certain optimization. So actually this system is failed. So, but actually I would like to go on and where is this project GitHub? So I tried to make this open source. And this is really a big point for me. It may not be that the authorities of our country are not able to force people to, or those companies. So they now have a new version on Apple and other systems, and in January the new patch is awaited. So if for us here this would be this should be the case, then half an hour later there's a pull request, and so we have to point out very clear that we have the competences and we have the community who is interested in those projects. Please let us help, as we did in the last years. Please do public source and accept our patches. This is critical infrastructure, and therefore it has to be open source.
Ja, eine der Dinge, die uns dieses Jahr natürlich auch beschäftigt hat, war die...
Another thing that we discussed this year, the results of the General Data Protection Regulation, which came very unexpected. Everybody was panicking. What is happening now? We are now being... the internet won't work anymore. We'll get warnings over and over, can't do anything more. I myself got lots of mails from people who asked me for, well, please sign this declaration, stay on my mailing list. So it was like everybody waking up. We already had this demand for a data letter, so we would like to know if somebody has stored our data. And with this GDPR, we actually have got this, because all of those companies that want to send mail to me and letters, they have to inform me, yes, we do have your data. Would you like to be on our mailing list? Yes, please. So there are still some problems with the GDPR, but nevertheless, some of the results that are not so great, they are due to some lawyers who are actually making others feel not so comfortable. But we think that most of the effects are positive. The negative effects we see on the corners. It's mostly the governments. They actually now stop giving access to information freedom with the argument of data protection, to privacy. So, but nevertheless, all of this panicking has not become true. So when the discussion at the beginning of the year, when we came near the data protection officer of our country to get more information on this topic, to get some more hints, unfortunately, there was nothing of it at all about this. But nevertheless, in December, in Parliament this year, she stated this discussion about the GDPR. She commented it. So she stated, okay, authorities should have delivered more information to people. So actually, the problem was that the not giving information was caused by the authorities. And now Mrs. Vossoff will resign. It will be Mr. Kelber who will take the new data protection officer. And he has already declared that the GDPR is one of his central topics. So I hope there will be a turnaround of this topic. And also how we recognized how companies deal with processing of our data. So what we stated already several years, what we stated, how important this task is, or this office is for the nation. We hope it will be easy to make it better than before. So one of his main tasks will be to get the national GDPR data protection regulation going. So actually it was not the top topic of the CCC because it's rather legal. Yeah, but it's not possible to have a new legislation on privacy every year just to be able to inform ourselves. So the other half part of the companies who didn't give me information that they had my data, so in some of those companies and accounts, I actually didn't look them up for years. It would have been better if there would be some legal information that my data is with them and they are informing me actively once per year. So it has become rather natural to have those data and to store them in a database. And yes, from some time of time, maybe we have some algorithm which collects and retrieves some additional information from this data mountain. So actually, it's important to ask the question: why is it important to collect the data when people are, for example, accessing my website? So in this case of CCC, we don't have any logging now when accessing the CCC website. So that's what we have in our data protection declaration. We don't log anything, and that's my favorite privacy declaration. Yeah, maybe that's an idea for you to check with your systems. Just switch it off, and then you don't have any problem of thinking of data protection declarations or privacy declarations on your side.
Well, we as the CCC are not as quite close to economic groups. Close to economy, this is the next topic. this is for me. There are a few more commissions with this picture in the Chancellor's Office of the Digital Council. There's the Data Ethic Commission, and the Bundestag has a commission, the Enquete Commission for Artificial Intelligence. So there's a focus of this government on digital topics, but we can see that in the other legislatures periods, the experts of these commissions are there, but at the same time, the strategic papers are put out, like with the hyped topic of artificial intelligence, where there was a strategy paper in autumn, where the focus was on economic politics and more data in the sense of what the government does. That's an interesting thing where this happens again, where you hold the experts, but you just do it anyways. And we'll look for the results of these commissions, especially for the Data Ethics Commission. They have shown in the beginning that they are not really lackeys of the government and corporations. We'll see what these commissions will do. And I hope they won't give too much money to a private company, the Deutschland Institute of Künstliche Intelligenz. This Enquete Commission for the AI is there to put a lot of money into sciences that will bring us up close with Google. I know this is the Enquete Commission. This is not. We have to differentiate between a government and a parliament that wants some experts. Of course, there will be a lot of economic people in there. We have to do a bit faster, but we still have to say something about the secret services. What's important to me, in 2018, this is the first year where the Ministry of the Interior, the State Secretary, said the state Trojan should be put into law. So that's not the priority of Horst Seehofer, that we know of, but they stated this. It was a big scandal year for the secret services. We don't really have to say it, with amok president running amok, using right-wing conspiracy theories. The European Secret Service chief, weeks later, doubling down on that with a commission on Anis Amri, really hard failure of secret services and a lot of lies with connection people with moles in right-wing groups. What do you need these for? They are expensive. We should abolish them. After Starbucks hacked their vein detection technology. That's not enough applause. The impression is that some here may be already be used to the secret services. Well, we are working on more positive things as well. Something I could not attend, which was very sad, but it's very important. And we already hinted at it at the Router TR. We have to think about it a bit, how to go with about digital services with ecologically sound concepts. The name is with trees, work together with different organizations, Bits and Trees, with BUND, Bread for the World, FIF, OKF, Technical University Berlin, thinking about brainstorming how we could do digitalization in a democratic, just world? And what do we need to have digitalization in connection with resources, democratic and just world, what we can afford? And if you look around a bit, digitalization, from my view, is a privilege for people who can afford it. And it's the case that much of the technologies we use, that we buy, throw away again, like a smartphone every 2 years, are produced on the base of resources that are limited and mined under harsh conditions in countries by people who can't afford these technologies. And we have to do a lot here in society, and on a geopolitical scale. It's definitely an important thing for the future. What we want, you can read at ccc.de. The VOC was very great. They recorded everything. If you want to educate yourself a bit, you can learn a lot there. So please watch these talks. I recommend it. A lot of people came, surprisingly. It's an important topic to a lot of people. Apparently, we hope we can go at it with more power next year. Okay. Yeah, we are also very happy about this. It's like robot bulls charging after a red cape. One of the topics that we had to discuss with CCC work and this event is the question of killer robots. So weaponized autonomous systems. There was the try on international level to build something on this, but the greater powers didn't want this. We don't want this. We don't want to limit these systems. We think it's a big problem since, of course, drone technology, autonomous systems is in the hacker scene is a core topic, and next year we'll have to do more here to make sure on a technical level this won't happen. The same thing that we are trying to reach with secret services in Germany, that nobody will work for them. And I think on a similar way we'll have to do this with autonomous weaponized systems.
Next, we are very delighted to release a movie here tonight. A filmmaker called Sandra Trostel has worked on this documentary for several years, including CCC summer camp. I think the first recordings were at camp, and then there are 2 congresses included as well. This movie is basically about the events organized by CCC and the people who are involved in these events. And it's really received really good critiques so far. And I think those critiques are also really an applause for us and everyone here, because it's about the great world and the great environment that we have created here. And after a lot of effort, this movie is finally ready. We're very happy. And it will be released under Creative Commons license tonight. So it will be freely available to everyone online. But that's not enough. Sandra will also soon-ish release a platform, probably sometime next year, where all the raw material that she had for the movie will be released. So that's something like 70 hours of raw material, so that all of us, including you, can basically make our own CCC movies. Using all the material that she used and that she didn't use. And I think that is really a pretty unique thing to do, as far as I know. Something like that hasn't really happened. So not just releasing the movie in Creative Commons, but then also releasing the entire raw material and all of that. and that all of that using the CCC privacy demands. So the first person who has counted all the pixels, who has counted all the pixels of pixeled out faces can download the movie online for free. And tonight the official premiere happens with the official release. Some of you may have already seen it in a cinema, but yeah. And inspired maybe by the Chaos Computer Club, and maybe also by our motto last year, there's an additional documentation team. It's a movie about Valholland and the creation history of the Chaos Computer Club, and they're asking you for material for this movie. The world consists of matter, energy, and information. Matter and energy are limited. Information is unlimited. And it's the only possibility. I'm just saying what's being said in this video clip. And because of that, the CCC is founded. Using public data and protecting private data. That's something that we are confronted with more and more today, whether you want it or not. Well, and now I'm just turning on the computer. There's strange people with strange machines. Information has a price today and will also have a price in the future. And the Chaos Computer Club will also exist, will continue to exist in the future, in the long run. Well, I think basic rights are more important for me. We're still looking for unique and authentic photo and film footage from the early Chaos years.
Also wenn ihr da noch über Materialien verfügt, Fotos, Bilder, Videos, alles gerne gesehen und gesucht von.
So if you have material, photos, film, the team would look forward to that. Last year we also had a learning process that we went through. We will document that now, and the result of this learning process is like here we had on a pretty bitter way. Not every human knew what teams we have. Here for your security, your feeling of security. There's the CERT for medical ouchies and bigger injuries. The awareness team for conflicts, attacks, conflicts, helps emotionally. You feel well, that your rights are respected, that you can talk to someone if that isn't the case. Concrete conflicts, there's security, and for a few years now there's a specific support for people on the autistic spectrum. This is a formal team now, C3OT, which helps people before, during, after the conference. Last year, didn't have for the first year, but the first time in the strength, we wanted to throw people out from the event preventatively. Before that, we only did that after very hard things that happened, but we didn't really put it to a regular process. Like, we didn't have anyone who could be asked for that, and then it happened. Last year, we kind of fell over that we didn't know who to speak to with a conflict like this. This is like before the event, we know that the person being there would like hinder a person from being there. And we had, after the Congress in January, I know it was January because that was when I still had a hard Congress hangover, couldn't really get over it. We went on this with a lot of people, with a lot of expertise in different areas like psychology, psychiatry, systemic advisory, juristic expertise on how to make this, to have a process that isn't exploitable and has the focus on helping and supporting people. We did not want something like this person isn't allowed in, this person isn't allowed in, but we wanted with a support system for the community. And you can look at this. There are workshops on this Congress for the jury place, the jurisdiction office, and we are thinking after 10 months of work we put into this, we have a pretty neutral place with people who are trusted by the CCC, that have expertise for the events, for the Vereine that make the CCC, the topics we are working in. And I think we can have an applause for these people because they are doing emotionally hard work, and we should thank them from our hearts. Let's go on. Okay, this is an area we will have to skip through a bit because we don't have as much time, but it's still important because work in regional CCCs is very important. We cannot do this, could not tell the whole story. We have to pick and choose a little bit and put a spotlight on things where we hope that other people will do this, or ideas we found very funny, or that just talk to me and add guys. The thing is, chaos work is hand work or leg work. The club is so very big. We have to, we can't really know everything. Most of you maybe don't know that there's in your Erfa-Kreis or in an Erfa-Kreis near you that there happened interesting things. It's very good to just go there and take a look. When I saw the plenum protocols from the Erfa-Kreises on our mailing lists, I saw that there are forms for very interesting things doing from within our community, where we are saying this Congress feeling, take it back with you home. It's important. This is just 4 days after all, and we have to bring it back into society. This is not in some vacuum. It's happening in the Erfas. It's happening there. The Erfas are inviting like the assemblies. We are inviting to have a space to come together to work on projects or ideas. And this is happening in the Erfas. Chaos macht Schule is there in a lot of Erfa-Kreise, where teachers are supporting workshops where students get to know about digital civilianship. And this picture I will show you. I asked the Erfa circles to present themselves, to tell us what's been important for them this year or next year. Some people called back with photos or without. And this is in Munich.
So, for example, in Munich, they cooperated with a class of the police academy where they created a flipboard, which is mobile. And so they had these posters which they had to essentially carry or drive around. Is it a movie? Oh, it's a movie. It's a movie. It's not a poster. And so they created basically a poster for demonstrations, but that can be changed, and which is basically a screen. So you can reuse it every single time, and you don't have to reprint posters for every single demonstration. And sometimes maybe the copy shop is already closed, but using this display, that's a very sustainable way of going out and protesting. Well, I guess it uses electricity. Well, let's hope that's solar energy. We thought that was very innovative. Very, very cool, more of that. And then, of course, that also happened, that was used at the protest, and I think they're justifiably very proud of this. Is that a car protest? I think it's probably just the speaker in front, and then you have the display there. I really like it. You save a lot of effort. You still need to walk, but at least you don't have to carry any heavy posters anymore. Well, and you have to build a car next to carry the display. That's a hacker-compatible protest. Well, and the people in Munich have celebrated their 10-year anniversary by putting something into one of those like time capsules. They should get some kind of prize for that. 10 years. 10 years of being in their new rooms. They had some events there, and one thing that was very important for them is that they had a member assembly where they also said that basically clearly said that hacker ethics are very incompatible with the far right. They've slightly amended the wording. We had one of those declarations with the CCC a few years ago, which specifically referenced the NPD, but they changed it slightly to reference more current political developments such as AfD. And I think some people are somehow surprised recently that the CCC positions itself on the left end of the spectrum. I'm really speechless. Where were you for the past 30 years? When Wouw Holland said in 1989 that when he wrote and called on people to get involved with the CCC, then you're definitely inheriting something that is a left-wing agenda, and you really need to be fine with that. Our heart is very much on the left, and that's where it beats, and you have to be fine with that. It's a loud round of applause. Yeah, I'll hurry up. Okay, let's move to Karlsruhe. The Entropia also celebrates. They celebrate their 20-year anniversary. So it's existed for 20 years consistently. And so for next year, they have a real party plan for 2019. So they're also moving into a new location. They're going to have a party to inaugurate that place. There's going to be a massive birthday cake for the GPN. There's going to be a large Entropia party at camp. There's going to be a stage with a bar, and then in December they're going to ring out the party year with the so-called Glühpien, which is a reference to the German term for mulled wine, and the programming night. So it's definitely worth having a look at and visiting this local Urfa Circle Entropia. In Berlin, there are also changes happening. So there's Chaos Radio, which has existed since 1995 on regular radio waves, and which has now published more than 250 episodes. It's unfortunately putting out its last episode on radio in June. The radio station which we have been working with, Fritz. Oh, yeah, there were different stations we worked with before, but, well, unfortunately, they changed their plan. They really wanted to tell us what the reasons were, and if you ask the right person, they will tell you, but basically, the Chaos Radio will not be on regular radio waves anymore, but I think it's been 3-4 years. There are alternatingly different Chaos radios happening and being recorded at the Chaos Computer Club Berlin itself. That includes VOC, which is also working here at Congress. They're working together with the Berlin CCC members, which means that Chaos Radio has actually been published by CCC itself every other month, and we will continue that proudly to keep Chaos Radio alive even next year. Oh no, that's not the Chaos Computer Club Stuttgart. That's the picture I was supposed to show. They have existed since 2004, and they have had since 2004 a series of presentations, which has been happening in their city library in 2008. Since 2008, the building itself is worth a visit because it's really, really impressive. And so a series of talks by the CCC Stuttgart might be a good reason to visit. And consider, because of the new police law that was supposed to be published in Baden-Württemberg, they also published their own press release. And they also issued a constitutional complaint. They're definitely going to go to court against this police law. So Baden-Württemberg actually already changed their police law, but there are new changes planned. And the CCC Stuttgart is planning to launch a constitutional complaint. We hope that they will be successful, but it might take a few years. I mean, no worries if it takes a long time. We've been around for a while. We can wait. Let's quickly continue here. So in Chaospot, in Essen, in Western Germany, they have around 90 members. I'm so jealous because they basically started working with the Sendung mit der Maus, which is a famous child's TV program. And so they've basically worked with them and said, well, we will also open our doors. We have expertise working with children from Chaos Mix schools. And so they had some really cool events at the time. I'm supposed to say how many people there were. I think there were 30 children who came to the local CCC and who basically visited that TV show and visited the CCC there. They will also be participating here with a Capture the Flag roundtable, and they will be organizing the third Hack im Pott in February, which is a small type of congress where if you maybe don't want to present something at a large congress, a large event like the CCC itself, then something like this might be a good place to kind of try something out, hold a small talk, which you can hold there, which will probably be streamed by VOC, and then will end up in our digital library online. It will be available there for all of eternity. Privacy Week. I think, Linus, you attended. I was only there for part of it, but then I had to leave. Well, yeah, I was there for the Privacy Week in Vienna. I think they called it C3W. So the CCC Vienna has been organizing this for a few years now in, well, Vienna. This event happened in their ethnology museum, which sounds terrible, but which is a beautiful building. And there it was possible. So the CCC opens itself up, opened itself up to the public, and I think it was in general a very professional, very event that you should support if possible. And I think you're now seeing the first kind of spin-offs, because there's now a first Privacy Week, and you see the good old VOC traditions are kept alive even at events like this. Well, is that alive? During Privacy Week, there were 30 angels, so they've definitely adopted this this angel culture, and these 30 angels put in more than 3,000 hours of work. That's also deserves another round of applause.
Das sind 50 Stunden pro Engel. Vielleicht sollten wir die Engel
So I think we also should maybe tell the Angel Union that the standards here at Congress are actually quite relaxed. So yeah, the CCC is basically their father. So in Recklinghausen, they have raided a big display. They worked with another association, and they took apart part of an old power plant, and over the next years or decades, they're going to use these parts and basically rebuild them inside their hackerspace to basically build such a big status display for things like bandwidth and, well, the type of things you need. We're also really curious to see what happens there, but it could take a while. So Hamburg, for starters, they said a few bad things because they said that some of these Freifunk nodes, which provide free Wi-Fi, may need to be taken down again. But the good thing is that the people who used to live in these containers are now actually able to live in real apartments. So there's now new material and equipment that can maybe be used elsewhere and that can be used to support people who have less access to the internet than maybe us. There was also hackover. They're expanding their rooms. And for some reason, soldering is a really hot thing there. Oh God! Please, you have to pay something into the pun jar for that bad joke. Okay, so I noticed that if the people in Hamburg are working on soldering and are doing so much soldering, and so let's back. No, we can only go forwards. So then if the people in Recklinghausen have a big problem with this massive display, then maybe the people from Hamburg can send a few people to Recklinghausen who can help them solder their display. Well, now you've got a new task. Another thing that I thought was really cool is that Hamburg has a Young Hacker Day once per month. Well, we're talking about that later? Are we talking about that? Well, there's also a Young Hacker Day here. No, I think we want to talk about that during one of the later slides, but I can talk about this now before we forget, because we're kind of running out of time. I don't know why people are stressing us out. We have so much time left. Everything's relaxed. So this time we don't have a slide for Chaos Makes Schools, which is our school-based program, but we wanted to mention this nevertheless. At this point that a lot of ERFAs, so local CCCs, have this Chaos Makes Schools, the school program, which definitely was hyped and supported quite a bit after there was a talk about it here a few years ago, where a lot of people said they want to do that as well. This project is about basically going into schools and talking to teachers, talking to students, to essentially discuss digitization in schools, in education, and maybe give students the basic tools that they need to live in the digital world that we live in and want to live in. And for example, at the Young Hackers Day, they explain how to solder certain things and also how to program things, but also might also talk to them about data protection and what it means if we live and move in digital worlds. And it's really nice to see that the Young Hackers Day also happens here at Congress, and it sold we sold more than 300 tickets, or gave more than 300 tickets to students. And we enabled 300 students to participate in this hacker community here. And it's incredibly important that we reach and contact younger generations, because it might be specifically those younger generations who at 42C3 who are organizing this Congress with us and for us, and who are also part of our future. And I am again and again super excited when I hear what this project, Chaos Makes School, what it does and how many people are involved there. And I think that also deserves another round of applause for everyone who's involved there. Next,
Müssen wir ein bisschen was überspringen.
now we need to skip a few things. In Dresden, data traces are happening again. You're all heartily invited. It always happens in fall. The next Privacy Week starts on October 27th in 2019. For everyone who's interested in kind of getting an idea of how Airfast local CCCs work, how you can support them, how they can maybe help you implement certain projects that you had in mind, there is an event today between 4 and 6 p.m. Oh, so it's today, not day 3, like it says on the slide. It's in workshop room M3, so in around an hour. So it's in workshop room M3. So if you're interested in local CCCs, then you're welcome to go there and kind of get to know your local club. And if you're interested in that, you should just go there, drop by. I'm not supposed to say that there's free beer because there are only 330 seats. So I was paid not to mention that there's a free beer. Oh, well, of course. We don't only have good news this year. We also had quite a heavy setback this year because we had to close 80 franchises across Germany, CCC. That was really, really very difficult. That was not something we could do with all the angels. So this is a reference to a shoe chain that is also called CCC that basically left Germany this year. We're also very sorry for the people who sent us complaint emails this year to the Chaos Computer Club about any problems that they had with their shoe purchases. We will not be taking care of these emails any further, I'm afraid. So there's just one more, a very last block of topics and themes that we won't be able to talk about this in detail, I'm afraid. But it's very important because 2018, I think, was a year where we talked about content filtering a lot, partially because of the network content regulation law, which was happening in the beginning of the year, which was discussed in the beginning of the year, where there was a lot of discussion to what extent companies had to be transparent about the things that they filtered. I think looking back, we have to say that numbers published by the government and numbers published by these companies, the number of deleted content, or the amount of deleted content, is primarily due to violating rules and standards by those companies, rather than so in many cases these things are deleted in reference to community standards rather than German law. But that's also partially because it's quite difficult actually to find the forms that you'd have to use to get something deleted based on this German law that was implemented recently. But I also think partially this debate kind of like died down because there isn't that much going on. But there's still a constitutional complaint. I do think this is about freedom of speech, so it's a very important basic right. Relatedly, there was a much bigger debate triggered by things that were happening on the European level, because there were these terror filters, which are basically anti-terror filters, where there were 10,000 pictures and 8,000 video data that they were just filtered through upload filters, because you're not even allowed to upload them at all. So basically there's this content control when you're trying to upload these things. And so, yeah, so that's also related to all these questions of copyright, and we think that is a problem. Not just me. And that's also not just a German problem, but a European problem. And we have a big, quick message about that also says something about this, because we want to emphasize that we as an organization are not alone, but we have people who are fighting with us. Well, we see that we're fighting on several fronts where people are trying to introduce an infrastructure for censorship, where people are trying to prevent certain contents from being uploaded in the first place. And they're taking on the power to decide what gets to get uploaded in the first place, and that's completely opaque and intransparent. And a second aspect of this is that, so next year, something that's going to happen next year is that the EU copyright directive is going to come. So on the European level and the national level, we're not by ourselves. We invited Kurt Absal. Kurt, could you come to the stage? Who works with Cory Doctorow and Kurt Absal, who works with Cory Doctorow and with us, and who's briefly going to talk about it to us. Can you take the podium?
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Kurt.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for giving me a moment to talk about Article 13. You've probably heard that the EU's close to passing a copyright directive with it, a rule in it called Article 13, which might be the
this is all in English,
rule that has ever come out
so
of a supposedly
I guess I don't have to
process.
translate this.
Under Article 13, online platforms will have to censor any copyrighted work that the users post. And the process of determining
what the copyright filter is opens. Anyone can add something to it, and the filter will be used to compare every used contribution, code, text, audio, videos to the database. And if the algorithm thinks there's a match, then you're blocked. These filters will also cost hundreds of millions of euros to produce, meaning within reach of even the largest internet companies, mostly the US tech giants, and the smaller European competitors will be hard-pressed to be able to comply with this directive, crushed under the weight of this rule. Article 13 is bad for competition, it's bad for freedom of expression, it's bad for the EU, it's bad for artists, it's bad for every internet user. The next and possible final EU meeting on this is coming up in mid-January, and the German government holds the balance of power. So we're asking you to contact your ministers and tell them to hold the line. Tell them to continue the opposition to Article 13. This will just affect Germany, it won't stop at Europe. Every internet user in the world will be affected by this, and we don't want to have the EU become the largest exporter of bad internet policies. The German government is currently unsure, and I think we should try to convince them. And I'm worried how this will affect German tech companies, and they are right to make the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs in Germany will decide. The minister is Peter Altmaier, so I'm asking you to call him, because we have a petition with 4 million signatures, and people are saying that the proponents of Article 13 are saying we can ignore it because it's bots. Well, you're not bots, and if you call them in person, you can convince them you are not a bot as well. So you can make a difference and call. We have up here this URL. It's a short URL that will direct you to a page on the CCC wiki that will explain how to contact the minister.
Give it a phone call. Phone calls are far more
Give it a
effective.
phone call. Phone calls are much more effective than other means of communication. The more effort we put into the communication, the more is received by the political office as the will of the people. So we're asking you to make the call. Ask your friends to make the call, and together we can stop this bad internet rule. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, didn't get the first small part because I wasn't realizing that you can't really hear the normal track. We want to close this look back with a call for action. So you have to call until mid of January by Altmaier. We have some more, which is important for 2019. We want you to be engaged. The club was always, well, the union of people being active together and not just informing themselves, but also really in their FR circles and with public work and writing, clicking, calling, like work with this. We want you to do this. If not one else is saying something, well, thank you for your attention. Hope you have another nice 2 days of Congress. don't forget the call to action. Thank you.